we're going to talk about all of the esports politics that have been going on. And unfortunately, the politics are now starting to bleed over into the scene, and it is creating this weird issue. I saw some people are kind of like raising their eyebrows and they're saying, what do you mean, a boycott? So I'll just set the table. Obviously, a number of top teams didn't go to PGL Cluj-Napoca, and they did so to the detriment of themselves and their players. Na'Vi didn't go when Imma obviously wanted to play in front of a home crowd as a Romanian. And he was there and he got a huge pop and people queued around the block for him and all of that stuff. But it would have been insane if he'd been on that stage. And if Na'Vi had gone, they were almost guaranteed to be in the finals, IMO. So it's crazy they took that from him. And then on top of that, it's also worth noting that Furia and Team Liquid, I don't think they can afford to be not going to ranking events, particularly if other teams are going to sit out. Vitality might be fine. And so, obviously, behind the scenes, it's once again this block of the super powerful orgs, all the ones that have been in bed with the ESL and the EWC, and they're all coming together and they want money. And they want money to attend. And they're going to say to their players, we're not going to that event because they don't pay us to go. And that's it. And the players are apparently just going to eat a plate of shit on this. Also, advertising $1 million prize pools when the players are getting 300,000 of that, not a share of $1 million. I think that sucks. I think that's actually deceptive, in my opinion. So, we had all that going on with the backdrop. And I want to kind of make people aware about some of the other details that have been going on while all this has been happening. Because ESL have subsequently announced the details of their agreements and what agreements they actually have with these organizations. And so it's public now. And I just wanted to, first of all, right out the gate, just do a little thought exercise about what is actually materially different. And then people can talk about it amongst yourselves, I guess. We'll start with this. Someone helpfully copy-pasted it because, bizarrely, this links to an HLTV short report rather than the document itself. But somebody did it in the thread. Remember, VRS was created to enable us to have an open circuit where teams get invites based on sustained success over the period of the year, and there was no more, we've bought a slot, so we play in this tournament, and we can't be relegated, and therefore we artificially can't fall down the rankings. Valve created VRS to stop this. They were very explicit in why they did it, and what they wanted, and what they didn't want. Now, I'll also say they were explicit that these relationships had to be disclosed right out of the gate. If I understand the wording of that correctly, ESL haven't done that either. And remember, Valve already made exceptions for ESL. They already broke some rules, didn't they? Because they didn't have tournament venues announced within a set time frame. So ESL have already had benefits from Valve. And it annoys me that they keep getting these benefits where maybe other TOs wouldn't. So, this document outlines what the agreement is. And this individual, Pew Sidersaw, he helpfully copy-pasted it. So, obviously, could show you the document. It looks a lot cleaner here on Reddit. So, core agreement structure. It is a 24-month rolling term for the agreement. And it covers team participation in the EFG Masters tournaments, including Intel Extreme Masters and the ESL Pro League, which remains to be its own kind of separate thing from the IEM Tour, even though it's a ranking event. And it includes a revenue and profit-sharing mechanism. Teams must participate in tournaments when invited based on Valve ranking. This word seems a little odd. The entire premise of the VRS is that, no, you don't must. There is no must. You have the option. You skip it, we go down one. That's that. And so at any given moment in time, we have the best ranking, the best teams available that wish to attend an event. That's it. There is no must. But, okay, you must participate in tournaments when invite-based. And you can decline up to 3 tournaments in a 2-year period, a maximum of 2 per calendar year. You miss no more than 2 tournament invites that may be declined in a single calendar year. And if a 2-year period includes an EFG tournament, which has been uplifted and sanctioned as a Valve major and not as an additional event in the EFG tournament calendar, the maximum number of declines allowed is 2 in a 2-year period. Now, what do you lose if you don't agree to go? Well, you lose access to this revenue sharing mechanism they put in place. Whereas we've already seen during this stream, for some events, the org makes more than the players. And this is key, because you have to remember, unless they've changed their contracts, orgs were taking a cut of prize money. So it's not always a big amount. But some orgs take like 20, 25%. Some orgs take 10, some orgs take 0. It's something you negotiate when you join an org. But increasingly, it used to be players kept all prize money. But increasingly, because of esports winter and COVID and all this bullshit, they started saying we got to take 10%, we got to take 15%. We take that 10 and 15% and we give it to the management, we give it to the support staff, etc. So they're getting that plus a fee for attendance, which isn't cut or shared with the players. So for me, that should only be happening if you agree as well. The prize money is for the players, and the other money that we get, the appearance fee, is for us. That makes sense. That's fair. You shouldn't be double dipping on that. That's pretty bad. But also, essentially threatening to withhold financial support if you decline to go to their events. That's exactly what they did in the Partnered League. That's exactly what the Louvre agreement was. I know that was one of the things I covered extensively at the time. You can see as well, for the calendar year of 25, where the team declines an invitation for a qualifier or of a tournament, then such shall not be treated as a decline under the previous section. This exception may be extended for a further period of time as EFG may elect in its own discretion. So in other words, there's a qualifier. We might not count it if you decide not to go. They have this best lineup requirement. The team must field its best lineup for each tournament it participates in. The best lineup shall mean the team's most competitive players as reasonably determined by team's roster management. If an actively participating player is unavailable due to unforeseen circumstances, such as illness or injury, the team must notify the ESL Faceit group as soon as possible and provide a sustainable replacement from its roster. Here's the thing with this. In a partnered agreement where someone owns a slot as a tangible asset, and they can't be kicked out of your league, maybe you do get to say what they play. But I don't think it's any of your business. I don't think ESL should be dictating what roster you fucking field. It's my business. It's my team. It's my org. I'll field who the fuck I want. I'll enter the 5 players I want to enter, thank you very much. And it shouldn't come with the, with withdrawing money. And again, when Flashpoint did it, they did it because it was a hermetically sealed league where you owned a slot. They have the commitments to fan and media engagement, which not all tournaments have that. Then we get to this, compensation and revenue share. The team may be entitled to an annual club incentive based on viewership rankings and participation. Now you understand why the big ranking teams, the high ones, the popular ones, Na'Vi, Vitality, Team Liquid, Furia, G2, all the ones that move the dial on viewership, now you understand why they weren't at PGL. And now, because they want something like this from PGL, they say, we bring viewership to your event. What do we get for it? Well, you get the prize money. You get to do your sponsor activations via the mechanism of playing in a tournament. It's all paid for by the tournament operator. That's not enough now. That's not enough in 25. Also mentioned, we provide transport and accommodation for 7 individuals per team. This was something they were fighting for behind the scenes, by the way. We need more people. We need more people at the event. Says here, this agreement, including all appendices and associated amendment agreements thereto, together with the TPA, constitute the entire agreement and understanding between the parties with respect to the subject matter. Any changes to this agreement must be made in writing and signed by the parties. All notices under this agreement must be sent to the parties at their respective addresses as stated above. Subject to Clause 8, this agreement constitutes a legally binding agreement, blah, blah, blah. And that's just to basically say that you can agree to drop out of the agreement with 2 years' notice, or at the start of 27. So all of the teams that have signed this are basically locked into doing this, which this is just the Louvre agreement. It's just the Louvre agreement. It's the same thing. There's barely any differences. This is the thing I'm going to read last. They say this agreement may be unilaterally amended or immediately terminated by EFG to comply with any guidance, direction, requirement, or regulation given or issued by Valve Corporation. So, in other words, if Valve say, listen guys, you're not doing that, then they terminate the whole agreement. And they absolutely fucking should. Or they should say to ESL, you can have the revenue share, but you can't have the VRS points. That seems a solution, right? You want to create your own little ecosystem, fine, but you don't get to intersect with Valve's ecosystem. Let me just explain why I think this is so bad. You're entering into an agreement with a Saudi Arabian company that totally isn't linked to the Esports World Cup, that totally dispenses stipends to your orgs that pay to have the teams. This is the mechanism they do at the EWC. You're in the EWC Club Cup program, which they're expanding, by the way. You get a stipend. That stipend, depending on the game, is anything from like $100,000 to $600,000. They pay for you to have the team so you can enter into the EWC tournament. It's like they are paying to have their own entrance. Unprecedented. Never seen anything like it. And so they're doing that. And what happens, let's say you're Team Liquid and you go, I don't want to do this actually. I want to go to a PGL event. And there's an intimated quid pro quo because ESL and PGL are very much at war. I mean, you know it. It just is. We'll get to that when we get to the Battle of Krakow, right? ESL and PGL do not play nice with each other, never have historically. It's all total fucking bullshit. And by the way, ESL has tried to monopolize the fucking Counter-Strike scene for as long as they have existed. It has always been the way they think about it. I'm going to write a comprehensive article listing all of the times ESL has attempted to monopolize CS. And this shit is just the latest, right? Blast can't push back, and so they have a verbal agreement behind the scenes. But the head of Na'Vi, right? So these are the major players. Harris Pilton, as he's called, from Na'Vi. Victor from Team Liquid. And I think it might be Fabian from Vitality. They represent all of the other orgs. And they're going to TOs and they have a meeting. And this is what happened before this agreement. They went to the TOs and said, look, for 2025, we're getting rid of partnered leagues. That doesn't work for us. So what can we do about that? How can we get money? And so Blast agreed, we'll give you appearance fees. But we're going to do it in the form of tokens. And so teams that come up and qualify, they can earn those tokens too. It's not just like a you thing. Cool. Esports World Cup already set the precedent. We're giving you all a stipend. Incredibly, they said in their marketing for the Esports World Cup, they said, oh, it's to help small teams. It's like a one-off stimulus payment. Well, now it's going to be a sustained annual stipend. And stimulus implies like you give it to something that needs to be like kickstarted into life again, right? No, they're giving it to the world's biggest esports organizations. I listed all of this in the last article I wrote about it. Out of the entire top 10 valued orgs on 2023's Forbes list with those outrageous $400 fucking million, $600 million valuations for esports orgs, they all get a check from the Saudi Arabian government because they tell me behind the scenes, if we don't do that, we'll go bankrupt and I have to think about everyone's job. Yeah, you should have thought about that before you pissed tens of millions of dollars of VC money up against the wall. You should have thought about that. By the way, not to get into politics, since as Elon and all of his Doge homies are doing this fucking US aid thing, and they're looking to see where the fraud and spending was, please look into the esports PPP loans during COVID. I'm sure some of them can't be kosher. I'm sure they weren't meant to be going to big esports organizations. Anyway, so what's ended up happening is they went to ESL and said, look, we like the way you do things. You know that we're on your side. We're loving all this Saudi money. What can you do for us now? And they've essentially just rewritten the Louvre agreement. And they've just ran basically a hose full of piss down Valve's leg. They've just made fools of Valve. And I can't believe they're tolerating it. But they're tolerating it for now. And it is ridiculous that they're tolerating it. And so, anyway, those are the big three orgs that like go out and meet with people. But like other orgs that are into this shit are obviously all the ones that you've seen. You know, Furia, I'll tell you a story. Did you believe that visa fucking story for a second? Furia turning around and going, we can't go to Romania because we're applying for a fucking visa in the US right now. Romania is a country in Schengen, for fuck's sake. It's not going to impact on your visa at all. And so, yeah, Furia were basically told, like, stand with us and drop out. And that's what they did. And then they told PGL, oh, we're applying for a visa. So here's why it matters. Let's just say there was an implication, the implication as in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Let's just say there was an implication that, hey, if you go to PGL events and PGL do well and they make money and they're a competitor and they can challenge our business moving forward, we might have to withdraw that Saudi stipend. I'm not saying anyone's saying this, but that implication is there now. And so obviously, right, well, we're just not going to that event. And by the way, in 26, events go head to head. And in 27, it's going to happen again. And it's going to be, and you can guess which ones. And so, why am I worried about the implication? Well, okay, let's start by looking at this. So, I'm supposed to believe those organizations decided to skip Cluj-Napoca, an event with a $1.25 million prize pool in mainland Europe, and teams like Furia and Liquid definitely need the event points. I'm supposed to believe they skipped out on that. Just because they wanted a rest, they didn't want to burn out. Okay, well, let's test that theory then. IM Melbourne invites announced. Oh, look, it's your boys. The only exception here is G2, Liquid, Na'Vi, Vitality, the ringleaders. They're there. Spirit's there. So remember, $1.25 million prize pool that would have gone all to players. They don't go. They're not going. We're not going to that. We can't go to that. $1 million prize pool, $700,000 of which goes to the organizations and not the players. The players get to share $300,000. Oh, we can go to that. And it's on the other fucking side of the world. This is how you know it's a fucking rigged game. It's not about any of the shit they're telling you. It's about money in our pocket. We want an appearance fee. If you don't fucking pay us an appearance fee, we're not coming to your event. It is contrary to everything Valve say they want out of their circuit. And just so you know, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. There's the prize distribution. Look at this. First place, $125,000 to the players. Now remember, again, the organization will have 10% of that, 5% of that, 25% of that. Who fucking knows? You're flying to Australia to compete for $125K. Meanwhile, the organization that wins, 160 grand straight in their pocket. People are not picking up on this. People don't understand this because even though HLTV are doing as much as they can to make it explicit, it is still advertised as $1 million tournament. It is not $1 million tournament. It is a $300,000 tournament in Australia. Players are being made to go to irrespective of their wishes because of this revenue share. Meanwhile, when the players want to play in Cluj, they're being told, no, you can't. We don't get anything from that. And as I tweeted out today, that was the crux of the PEA issue. People don't remember the American team owners, those greedy fucking pigs that still continue to fuck up this scene to this fucking day, by the way. Those greedy fucking pigs tried to make their own little hermetically sealed fucking league. And they were like, we're going to control it and we're going to have the revenue share and it'll all be us. And what did they say to the players? They said, you can't compete at ESL events. Well, ESL was the biggest fucking show in town. So how does that work for a player? It's like if I create a rival to the NFL, let's say the XFL, but I just so happen to be the owner of the Patriots, and I say, we're playing in the XFL, and you're all coming, and Brady and the guys are like, wait, no, we want to play in the better league and win a Super Bowl? And I go, no, I'm going to get a bunch of sick money. So what did they do? They fucking unionized. The PEA incident was considered so fucking outrageous, an affront to the players, that essentially led to what eventually became the CSPPA. It's happening now, in 2025, And the players don't seem to care. They're just doing interviews going, well, it wasn't our decision. You got Emma posting, I would have liked to play. What are you going to do about it, guys? What are you going to do? They're falsely advertising prize pools, taking a cut of the reduced money while pocketing a fuck ton for themselves because of operational costs or whatever. I want to remind everybody, when the Saudis started this shit, what did I tell you? I told you it is going to be a monopoly. They don't think in any other terms. And if you follow any other sport, whether it's UFC, fucking Formula One, fucking golf, boxing, they fucking poison everything they take over. Yes, big glitz, glam, more money, more celebrities, feels more mainstream. It is sterile, it is fucking cold, and there is and it is corrupt. And there are like the haves and the fucking have-nots. And everybody is signed up for this. Your favourite org, the executive suite in there thinks this is a good idea, thinks this is reasonable. The players don't. The players you love, but they're going to go along with it. To rock the boat now, with the scene we've got now, it's impossible. What could the players do? Do you want to get dropped? Do you want to get cut? And you better believe, by the way, Emma got fucking lit up behind the scenes for that, probably. For saying we've all got contracts and agreements about where we can and can't go. For the liquid interviews, people saying, well, you know, we wanted to play inclusion, we can't. It's a matter of time, so save this, clip this. It's a matter of time, by the way, where a player is going to receive some form of punitive measure or get cut from a roster because they speak up about this. Mark my words on that one. Because there's too much money involved. And so you have a $300,000 tournament on the other side of the fucking world. These teams decide they can go to that, but they can't go to Cluj. If you cannot see what's going on, I can't make it any clearer for you. It gets more interesting, though, because if you look into the sheer volume of ties to Saudi now, it's pretty wild, actually, what the other thing that's going on is. So if you know about Saudi, remember, Saudi owns Savvy, which owns the ESL-SAUDI group, ESVN. They bought Esports Engine and then laid everyone off from Esports Engine. By the way, I hate to say it, Adam Apicella, back before joining the Death Star, he was talking about how Esports Engine was great and fucking loved it. And, you know, it was like, it was just good to make cool stuff. And they were producing the Call of Duty tournaments and what have you. And then when they got laid off, or rather when they got bought, he left and he was like belly aching about it. He joined the ESL-SAUDI group. And I know he watches my stuff, so he's going to see this clip. And I'm sorry, brother, but it's just the truth, man. Like, you must have enough in the bank. It's not like you need the money. So what are you doing? What's the statement here, like, that you're trying to make to the world? Like, it was bad, but now you've got a job, so it's good. Sepso's in there, of course. So all of these production company rivals as well, they're just buying them up. ESVN, I think that got rebranded over in fucking China. They bought all of that stuff and laid everybody off. And it's not to make cool stuff in North America. It's to simply stop any competition because they only think in monopolistic terms. And then we had the StarLadder thing, didn't we? And just briefly, because you can read about it on my Substack, and I am told reliably by the fucking CEO of StarLadder, it's all just a conspiracy theory and speculation. To which I would say, why is the company buying StarLadder? Why did it hide that Ralph Reichart was on the board? Simple question. Why was everyone else publicly listed, but Ralph Reichart wasn't? Why was it, if he has no influence in the organization, why is it in your minutes of your business meetings, why is it a point that you actually bumped him up to have him on the board? Why is it still active if he does nothing? Why didn't you vote him off the board? Why then does StarLadder, after selling for $2 million in cash out of a total $5.5 million valuation, $2 million straight to the CEO, why is that sale happening now ahead of the major, which, by the way, ESL didn't look like they were going to get any majors? Why did that happen? And then, almost immediately after it happened, suddenly a bunch of fucking sleeper cell, old school ESL guys, they all changed their titles to fucking, oh, we're at StarLadder, we've been working at StarLadder, we were at Nodwin, but now we're at StarLadder. We're running StarLadder now. And look, is it a separate company? Yeah, maybe. Does Ralph Reichart have any influence over it? I don't know. But if he does, that's kind of bad, right? that another independent tournament operator has fallen by the wayside of being influenced by Ralph Reichart, who has quickly risen to being the most fucking powerful man in esports. And I'll tell you this, it's actually hilarious if you knew him like I knew him. It's actually hilarious, because there was a period where he was just a fucking he was just a boomer like me, just a boomer esports guy, just wanted to make cool esports videos. I remember going to ESL events, sitting down with the big man, meeting Ralph Reichart. We used to shoot the shit, have a beer, as crazy as that is to believe. But then something happened, because it always does in this business. And these people, they start to believe their own bullshit. They become fucking narcissistic fantasists, just totally delusional. It's never enough to satisfy them. And so they become malignant. And this is what they start doing. They start playing political games, fucking with everyone's future. Once the money starts getting involved, it gets dirtier. And there was a moment where it was just like, oh, wow. Oh, God, you think this is all serious? You think you really are playing Game of Thrones now? So, he's become, essentially, the avatar of Mohammed bin Salman. This fucking German guy. So, the ties that bind are crazy, because now the Saudis run the Esports Olympics. Probably forgot about that, didn't you? Their whole esports play was so they could run the esports for the Olympics, because Saudi thinks the ultimate way to sports wash is the Olympics. It thinks, oh, it's going to put us out there to all the people of the world, and they're going to look, and it's the Olympic spirit and the Olympic standard. And it doesn't matter that we beheaded a women's rights activist that day. It doesn't matter that we fucking beat a confession out of a 15-year-old. It doesn't matter that we imprisoned an influencer for wearing shorts, calling it immodest, but actually it turns out it's because he's gay. None of it matters. Because, hey, we've got the Olympic spirit. It was like when we put fucking Saudi Arabia as the head of the UN Human Rights Council. So guess what comes next? I'm sure you can. We have to have some cronyism, right? We got to get some of that. So keep in mind, right, all of the international federations, by the way, guess what Nodwin controls? They have exclusive rights granted by the IESF and all these other international federations to run esports in Uzbekistan and all these other territories, Pakistan, India. Well, guess what happened next? This guy, this is on GameInside.ua. Right, Na'Vi owner Maxim Cripper, and by the way, we can talk about this motherfucker like plenty. This guy's wild. He's like a fucking billionaire. He reputedly owns GG Bet. He owns fucking Maincast, he owns Na'Vi. He's been linked to all sorts of stuff, adult websites, everything. This guy owns Na'Vi, and this guy is now the new head of the Ukrainian Esports Association. They pushed all the other guys out. And so I'll just read you from, again, GameInside.ua. Owner of Maincast and Na'Vi, Maxim Cripper, takes full control of the Federation of Cybersport of Ukraine. Our sources reported that the public organization is an all-Ukrainian organization known as the Federation of Cybersport of Ukraine, and it will soon be reissued to new owners. All old members of the board have been pushed out, and a new board will be formed with all the leaders known in cybersport from Na'Vi and Maincast. The president will be billionaire Maxim Cripper. The board will include the CEO Na'Vi, that's Harris Pilton, Yevhen Zolotaryov, the co-founder of Maincast, one of the talent Mikhail Zverev, the Na'Vi coach, and the COO of Na'Vi. So Na'Vi now run all esports operations in Ukraine. And guess what? The Ukrainian Esports Association works with the Saudis on the Olympic Committee. Anything to do with Ukraine now will go through them. Spoiler, they're already talking to each other because they're in bed with the ESL-SAUDI Games Group in the Esports World Cup. So that just happened. And let me also give you a little sinister tale. This was interesting. I don't know if this means anything, but it was reported on bo3.gg. And I'm just going to show you something. I read the story on there first before I found this. But now when you go to the link, and I'm going to just show you real quick. Now when you go to the link, right, there's the link for the article. I've got a screenshot of it too, right? But watch what happens now. They took it down. They took it down. It's gone. And then you look at the website, and it's registered in Cyprus, which is where all of these associated sites with your boy, they're registered there too. So I don't even know what that means moving forward. You tell me. I got some ideas. Next up, Had to laugh at this one. This is on the International Olympic Committee website. They announced Zeynep Gensiaga Deschalot was appointed as an International Olympic Committee Esports Associate Director. And I was like, that's an interesting name. Sounds familiar. I read it. 15 years of experience, mainly across football, gaming, and esports. A consultant for clubs that were linked to stadiums like Galatasaray. Part of Olympic Esports Week. Member of the first ever IOC Esports Commission. Yeah, the CEO of G2, this is his wife. Now, based on the CV, maybe she's like really, really qualified. I'm not saying she ain't, but that's something. I mean, optically, it's not great, is it? Anyway, because it does continue, and it's worth folding this in because it's all linked. We now ended up with the Battle of Krakow. And the Battle of Krakow is fucking one of the craziest things I've seen happen in esports. Like, we were all kind of like just blown away with it behind the scenes. We were just sort of laughing at how ridiculous it was, right? Yep, indeed, as you know, Snacks's favourite city of the machete, right? The old heads know. So what happened? Well, okay, let's do this. Let's go through it, right? On February the 11th, PGL announced a triumphant return to Krakow. And if you remember, PGL had a major in Krakow, 2017. And they were like, we're back. We're so back. By the way, Krakow's an amazing city. Been there many times. Was excited. I was like, wow. Fucking sick. Said it was celebrating 10 years since the iconic PGL major in Krakow. And it's going to take place in the Toron Arena. It's going to take place between January 13th to the 25th. In 2027. And you can see Sylvie there, and he said it was a landmark moment for us in the esports community, and we're looking forward to being back. And so, okay, we're going to Krakow. Good. Same day, a few hours later, they recycled the graphic and put a big red cross through it. The city of Krakow cancels the PGL event. So, to be clear, this isn't PGL cancelling. The city of Krakow said, yeah, you're not actually. All right, okay. Hold on to that thought. The Toron Arena just informed us that PGL's booking of the venue for January 13th to 25th was suddenly cancelled. And this is a Toron Arena representative email. Said, I saw your announcement, and at the same time, we've received confirmation from the municipality of Krakow that Krakow will be a host city and co-organiser of a cyclical event which will take place in January for the next 3 years, January 26th, January 27th, and January 2028. I'm very sorry to inform you that we have to cancel your reservation. Keep those words in your brain. Cancel your reservation for January 18th to 25th in the main arena and January 12th, 20th in the small arena. Now, how did Reddit interpret this? There was a thread, and they said, oh, look, someone has found a local politician, like the vice president of Krakow or something, and he said that they never had a reservation for the arena. PGL things, I guess. Haha! PGL, did the audio guy get promoted? PGL alleged torrent. PGL is so stupid. Fuck PGL, what are you doing, PGL? Lol, what the fuck? Now, it's not even a matter of debate that they had a reservation, because the Toron Arena themselves said we're cancelling your reservation. That's why that's a key phrase. And without getting into it, I know that they had the dates booked and a verbal agreement. Well, not verbal, but like a written agreement in an email. You can have these dates. And I know that, yep, sure, nothing was signed, they hadn't paid the full fee to hire the venue. But I'll tell you this, I've booked events, and here's how it works. When you book an event, you say, hi there, stadium, 2 years in the future, I would like these dates. Stadium goes, yes, we haven't booked that far into the future, so we will pencil you in. And you go, thank you for that. You put down the phone, and then you get a phone call. Probably a few months down the road. Hi there. Oh, wait, no, which side am I on? Yeah. Hi there. We're calling from the stadium. Someone else has tried to book the event over your dates. So we need you now to pay a deposit or the full fee, and we sign up the draft agreement. And you go, yeah, no problem. We're going to do that. We'll get right on that right now. Send us an invoice, etc. And that's how it works. You always get the opportunity because you don't do everything all up front. That's just how that always worked. So what should have happened there is, if there was an overlapping event, and we're going to get to what that is and why it wasn't even overlapping, someone should have said to them, like, look, someone else is trying to book the event, so we need you to pay. But as we'll get to, this wasn't first come, first served. But Reddit says PGL didn't even make a reservation, and they did it predicated on this tweet, which is very carefully worded, even via the mechanism of Grok Translate, which doesn't work unless you're logged in. That says the organizer announced the event date without having signed a reservation agreement with the Toron Arena. Unfortunately, another cyclical event is planned at that time. Of course, if there is a desire for the organizer, other dates are possible. Silviu publicly replied, and he said, "This is what you sent us via email from the Toron Arena. All dates are available, so I confirm reservation for you." And there's the dates. I don't know how anybody can say, I confirm the reservation, then later means you don't have a confirmed reservation. But that's what Reddit believes. And everyone sat back and just let that lie permeate. It's never been corrected. Reddit never corrected that. HLTV forums never corrected that. I don't even think it's been talked about in any of the podcasts or anything I've seen. Haven't seen anyone of any, importance in the scene talk about it. It's total bullshit. And so, let me tell you, all right? Here's what's happened, in case you're unaware. Here's what's happened. The last Katowice that just happened, that's the last Katowice for the foreseeable. Katowice is a crazy event to think about. And well, it's been around for 10 years. So it's got a lot of history in CS. And I've been there, and I've had a good time. I've been there as a journalist. I don't think I've ever worked Katowice as talent, because obviously I don't work, for various reasons, I've never worked ESL events. There was the period of time when it was the package, and they wouldn't hire Thorin, so I said, you don't hire my bro, you don't hire me. And so I turned them down then. Then there was the time I was in E-League, and it felt wrong to work with ESL, even though I had opportunities because they were a competitor. And then obviously we got the Saudi shit now. So I haven't done anywhere near as many ESL events as I probably could have done. I think I've done primarily StarCraft events for ESL, but ultimately I think outside of Cologne, the major in 2014, I haven't worked a lot of ESL events. And that's fine. I don't care about any of that. Like, the reasons are important. So why did Katowice ever happen in the first place? Right. Okay, well, so back in like 2014 or whenever it was, for the first one. Esports is growing into being this stadium thing, but we're still really, really small. And so Carmack, a Polish person and an executive within ESL, and indeed the person who is the president of product for the Intel Extreme Masters, one of the biggest sponsorships in esports history, particularly back then, he went to Katowice using his Polish connections and said, look, we can fill this stadium and bring people from all over the world to fill it. And we'll run an event here and it'll be really good for Katowice. Why would it be good for Katowice? Because Katowice is not a cosmopolitan fucking hub. It's a fucking mining hub. It's a mining community. It's a mining town / city. And I grew up in a place like that. There's not really a lot there. And so, over the period of time, no one really likes going to Katowice. I'm sorry if you're from Katowice. I grew up in a place like this. I hope you can empathise. It has got better the last 10 years. You've got, like, KFCs and ramen places now and stuff. It's like, but back at this moment in time, Katowice wasn't great. And I've been, the globalist brands are coming, so it's a good thing now. So, the reason Katowice happened is it was unbelievably cheap. Simple as that. Katowice was cheaper than Krakow, cheaper than Warsaw, cheaper than all these other cities you could have done it at. It was a cheap option, and that's what esports needed at that moment in time. And Carmack used his connections and negotiation skills to basically get that deal done, and then Katowice became a staple, and ESL had to pretend everyone loves being there. No one enjoyed going there. No one, not talent, not players. You would just sit in that hotel they put you up in, and there was nothing else to do. You used to drive people up the fucking wall. Anyway, but Carmack, and because of his Polish pride or whatever, would always be telling people, this is the best fans, this is one of the best events in the world. It's one of the best events in the world. Look, we fill the stadium every time. Doesn't matter, we give some of the tickets away. Look how good it is. Look how amazing it is. The best fans, the best fans, the best fans. And then they have to go and say that about Cologne. Then they have to go and say that about Rio. Then they have to go, and on and on and on it goes. So Katowice was on the calendar for 10 years when people really didn't want to be there. So, all right, well, fine. Not a big deal. Anyway, that last Katowice, not that you would know from the broadcast, it was the last Katowice. They should have done a bunch of content around it, but they Krakow was fully in the bag. I think that's the reason why they didn't commit. Well, it makes sense to say you were saying goodbye to a place that's been so instrumental in CS history. You've been there, going there for 10 years, and we're not coming back next year. And everybody knows it. The fucking players let it slip in the interviews. Co-streamers were letting it slip. Everyone's talking about it behind the scenes, how you're not going back there. So you didn't even put it in the broadcast, which is mental. It's all right, fine. Then, where do you think they're going? What city could they be going to? Where could the new ESL event be in Poland? Oh, it's Krakow, isn't it? So, that multi-cyclical event, that one that's in 27, 28, January 27, 28, 29, whatever the fuck, that's ESL Krakow. That's what they're going to be doing. So, Krakow next year instead of Katowice, and then it's on. So we get to the next problem, right? Okay, maybe ESL got there first, but they didn't. Doesn't look like they did based on the fact that PGL already had a confirmation email. So there's two things that could have either happened then. Either the Toron Arena didn't understand, like was wrong about the booking and told PGL they could have a booking when they couldn't, or PGL booked it first and ESL were given it as priority over PGL. Now, why would that happen? Weird. Couldn't be that because they've got a fucking, all the connects from the Polish executives. I mean, is it even worth getting into about all the fucking Saudi money that's been pumped into there? Like, do you even, is that like too much? Is that too much to get into? Is that too conspiracy theory-esque? I mean, we can do it. This is Arab news. Saudi Arabia, Poland set a business council to strengthen economic ties. Saudi Arabia and Poland have established a joint business council for the 2024 to 2028 term to boost trade and investment between the two countries. They're pumping a bunch of money into Krakow and stuff right now. I don't know. I mean, you see, you could say, it's just esports, Rich. They won't be privy to those conversations. If the fucking chairman of the board of Savvy Games wasn't Mohammed bin Salman himself. So, I mean, look, that could be tangentially linked. It could be a total conspiracy. It could be a total miss from me. I think that's interesting. But all right, okay. So we're getting IEM Krakow in 26 and 27. And PGL, following Valve's rules, tried to book the event 2 years in advance, as you're told to do, and they had the venue booked, but then it got turned around and suddenly they're not allowed to go. And they were told, we've got another event happening at the same time. Here's the problem. ESL have already put their dates out for 27. So, ESL tournament for 27, the first ESL event of the year is January 25th to February 7th. It is a matter of public record that those are the dates. So unless they're changing the dates again, which, remember, that's against Valve's rules, you can't do that. Now, just as a reminder, what were the dates of the 2027 PGL one? January 13th to the 25th. January 25th to February 7th. 13th to 25th. 25th to February 7th. Those dates actually only overlap there. So, for a one-day overlap in 2027, which isn't happening now, they have cancelled a reservation that seemingly, with all the evidence I've seen, willing to be wrong on it, as always, I only care about facts. That one-day overlap has basically meant PGL have been told, listen, if you want to host an event in the summer of 27, you can. But we're going to prioritise ESL, if that's all right with you. Even after we've said, yeah, you've got that reservation. Now, look, this is obvious. It's obvious why this is happening. They've done a deal. They've done a deal. Krakow, the city, obviously understand that ESL is probably a better option, owned by Saudi, all that money, maybe charge a bit more. Carmack, a great famous Polish person, all of this stuff. Yeah, listen, I know how it works. I know how palms get greased and fucking firm handshakes and promises and backroom deals and agreements. Krakow understand the importance of esports. It's not that they said PGL couldn't come to Krakow. They said you just can't come at this time, even though we did initially tell you you can. P.S. You'll be carrying the can in public as we use clever little technical sentences to make it look like you can't even book a venue correctly. The level of rat fuckery ESL are engaged in right now is beyond the pale. And it should disgust everyone in this fucking scene that they've let PGL, they've used proxies to basically make PGL carry that. And of course, I don't think PGL will be going to Krakow anytime soon, which means they've now got to scramble and fix their 27 event. based on a one-day overlap 2 fucking years from now, which should never have happened. ESL should have been told, you just move it along. But you are going second because we've got an agreement here. It's just absolutely fucking crazy, guys. It's absolutely crazy. And the community are just tolerating all of this stuff. And I just, like, it's like, I don't know. I can't believe that, like, criticizing PGL for audio issues is like a bigger fucking priority. And as I said, Silviu's been very explicit. He believes, he said this publicly, that actually PGL are being essentially attacked and pressured and squeezed by ESL, the Savvy Games Group Alliance, and of course to a lesser extent Blast, who are working in conjunction with ESL. They have all the agreements on the calendar dates. You'll see next year when events start to overlap, and when I say overlap, I don't mean like now where, I can't fly there because it will take too long. I mean, they are directly going head to head, and you as a viewer will have to choose what you watch, when you watch it. Teams will have to choose who attends. And I thought this was an interesting point. This is a clip from Confirmed, the episode they just did recently with regular returning guest Smooya. It's quite a good segment they did. There's a lot of discussion on it about whether or not the scene is oversaturated right now. And I don't think that's necessarily the problem. Tournament operators just have to stop the rat fuckery and respect the spirit of what the VRS was meant to be. And if they won't, Valve need to intervene and start stripping people of VRS points. That will fix the problem. But anyway, here it is.
Even if you look at some teams, like I'm looking at the Valve ranking right now. Team number 7, Navi, 1,800 points. Falcons, 1,600. So 130 points difference. Falcons making a final. Can they overtake Navi already here? Like, obviously, none of us would say Navi is worse than Falcons. But, you know, if you're going to be skipping big tournaments, this is considering the prize pool and considering some of the opposition that is there, like, you deserve to be taken over. Like, you can't just like chill and expect you to just get all the invites. That doesn't really make any sense. So I'm very curious how that's going to play out. I think it might, like, results of this event might sway some teams for the future. Yeah.
So what does that mean for this future that we're talking about? Because I'll tell you and this is the most important point. The one thing I do hate about this invite is the new invite system where you're invited based on your VRS ranking. Is TOs have no power or authority anymore over who attends their tournaments. Like, if I'm PGL, right, and I see a group of people trying to fuck over my tournaments by refusing to attend unless I pay them to attend, and then at a later date, they want to attend one of my tournaments when it suits them, I want the right to say, no, fuck you. But PGL can't do that. They have to respect the Valve ranking, and they have to invite them. And so what's going to happen is, when we go to Astana, Spirit are going to turn up. Bet Navi turn up as well, because it's the home crowd, isn't it? It's their territory. Makes sense to go. So they get to double dip on this. They're holding all of the cards. They can fuck up Cluj by not being there, show disrespect to the fans of Cluj, disrespect to their own players. There are no consequences for that except them not getting a bag. Meanwhile, they're getting bags from everyone else. Bags from Saudi, bags from ESL, which is also Saudi, bags from the Blast. And they get to go to the tournaments that they want to because it suits their business interests. And PGL can't stop them. I just think where we're at right now, we're always looking at a power balance. And the power balance is the interplay between Valve, tournament operators, esports organizations, and players. You can argue maybe fans is the fifth point of the start if you wish. But ultimately it's those four. And whenever it gets out of whack in one direction, whenever it skews up, usually Valve come in and fix it. Sometimes it takes years, but we do eventually. But we ain't got years with this. This could potentially have like insane ramifications to like players' careers, players' prize money and earnings, other tournament operators in the space. Like, what if I'm a tier 2? What if I'm a brand new tournament organizer, right? And I come into the space and I want to run some tournaments. And I go, I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to come in, run some tournaments. I don't care about the dates. I don't care about asking ESL for permission to run a tournament, which, spoiler, yes, that's kind of how they treat the calendar. I'm not interested in that. I'm just going to run an event and people can come, and I'm going to have a big prize pool and decent sponsors and run a good event. You're going to get a phone call from those guys that I talked about, those esports organization owners, and they're going to say, if you want us to come, we want money. And if you don't pay us, not only will we not come, we'll badmouth you behind the scenes, we'll tell other teams not to come, we'll pressure other teams not to attend. How does that help grow CS? It's good for the Habs, it's good for Na'Vi, it's good for Team Liquid, it's good for Vitality, but it is not good for esports, it is not good for CS. And it's not good for players, and it's not good for fans. And if that's not enough to make Valve do something about it, then we're already in for a rough time. People have over-prioritized focusing on the problems with the VRS algorithm, when actually the bigger problem is the fact that we haven't left the partnered agreement era. We thought we had. Valve said we had. Valve said we must, but we haven't. And until you fix that, this scene is going to be rotten.